Hi there, my name is Neil Blevins, and this video is called Authenticity in Art. So what is authenticity? If you speak to anyone under the age of 30, you'll likely hear this word a lot. And sorry Gen Xers, myself included, the word authenticity is being used in a slightly different way than what we might be used to. In this case, when used in the context of art, whether a painting, music, film, or a game, authenticity means a genuine connection between the artist and the audience. In the past, a well-crafted final image might be enough to attract the eyes of the viewer. But these days, people see millions of images every day on social media. So many images that they've started becoming visual noise, forgotten before even reaching the brain. The audience is now craving something deeper. Studies have shown again and again that the thing that keeps people healthier and happier than anything else is close human connections, and art should be an integral part of that. So when it comes to a genuine connection, many factors can strengthen this and many can weaken it. Here's a few categories that we'll be discussing. So first, tell your story and interaction, then effort and contribution, then originality, and then trust, honesty, and fairness. But before we discuss these aspects, we need to discuss an issue that has the strong potential to weaken this connection between artist and audience. It's the push we're seeing towards the adoption of generative AI. While the technology itself could potentially be used to increase human connection, it seems that's not the focus of the tech industry right now. Instead, the focus is on eliminating jobs and reducing art to content where artist contribution is minimal, and the intent is to keep you isolated so it's easier to extract money from your attention. A lot of the audience is unhappy with these developments, which has led to terms such as AI slop. The younger audience has grown up on the internet and has been exposed to so many scams and false claims, they're just tired of it, and they want something real. So how can the artist help provide a real experience? Interacting with the audience directly is a great way to create genuine connection. It can be the creator of a TV show talking to fans. It can be the artist live streaming and answering questions as they produce their art in real time. It can be a musician doing backstage meet and greets or music camps, or buying from a local vendor at a Comic-Con. People love stories, and hearing about how and why the artwork was made, and the personal story of the artist, can make a piece of artwork even more personal and meaningful. And if you interact directly, a third story is made, the story of them meeting you and the conversation that you shared, and that's peak authenticity. The next topic is slightly more complex. First, authenticity isn't a new phenomena. I remember 30 years ago with the rise of digital art, people were rightly concerned about authenticity. Can a piece of digital art evoke the same emotion as traditional art? Or isn't photobashing cheating? So before getting into GenAI, let's start at the beginning, discuss some of these other techniques, and define them based upon a specific aspect of authenticity, contributing to the artwork. Let's start with the traditional drawing. Every single thing in this is a choice the artist made. Every mark was their contribution. In many ways, drawing or painting traditionally is the most direct connection between the artist's brain and the final result. So let's mark this at 100% contribution. Next comes a photograph. While the artist did not necessarily create the things in the photo, they still had to make dozens and dozens of decisions and contributions, from what lens to use, where to place the camera, and waiting for the right moment to take the photo. And then the photo might be modified further in the darkroom, or later the digital darkroom. So when it comes to artistic contribution, I can't give it 100%, since the artist isn't dictating everything, but I wouldn't feel bad giving it 80%. Now here's 2D digital painting. While the paint isn't real, and the brush is a series of algorithms simulating a brush, the human hand has to move around the canvas in a near identical way to the traditional brush, and the brain has to make pretty much the same type and number of decisions. So maybe I'll give this 95%. Now on to 3D. This was the big controversy back in the mid-90s. Can 3D animation convey as much emotion as a traditional 2D hand-painted film? I hope we can put that question to rest by now, as every person who's cried at a Pixar film can attest. But why does it work? It turns out because the computer actually does less of the work than we thought it would. Even with all the algorithms, the vast majority of the things you see on screen have required careful consideration and fabrication by a human hand. It's just moving a mouse instead of a pencil. Still a ton of personal contribution from an artist or artists, making thousands of micro decisions to help arrive at the final result. So I'm saying 90%. Now let's talk about photobashing, which is the process of using photographs and collaging them together to create a new image. Take this painting for example. The big tree is in fact a photograph of a real tree, which has been modified and color corrected in Photoshop. Did I paint every leaf? Nope. So it can't be 100% contribution, but depending on the size and number of photobashed elements and how much they needed to be edited, I can imagine anywhere between 30 and 75% contribution. Considering this specific painting, I wouldn't feel too bad calling this 75%. Oh, but wait, I forgot to mention that this isn't some tree I took from Google Images. This is a tree that I photographed myself. So I didn't just rely on the decisions that the photographer made for me, I was that photographer. And so maybe contribution goes further up, let's say 85%. Now let's talk GenAI. For the moment, let's ignore the fact that this was generated using material that's under copyright. We'll get back to that in a bit. My contribution to this image was 5 words as a prompt and the decision to keep this image over another image. So what sort of contribution was that? This image has 1 million pixels, or 1 million decisions on what color that pixel should be. And I made 5 decisions, or 6 if you include my choosing the final result. So how much am I really contributing? It's not zero contribution, I definitely contributed something, but it's certainly far less than the 80 to 100% we were getting with the other methods. Maybe 5%? Now what if we use GenAI but use one of my own paintings as an input? That's certainly more contribution than just a text prompt, but it's still not as high as the other methods. 20% maybe? So how about using the AI to create photobash elements that you put together and paint over like in this image? That's got to be more contribution since I'm heavily intervening in the organization of the final image. I'll throw out a number of 30 to 75%, depending on how many GenAI images I use and how much I edit. For this particular piece, I'm giving it a 40%. So contribution isn't a black and white subject, it's a gradient. These percentages are all approximations in opinion, of course, but hopefully you feel they're generally fair. Beyond using it sparingly, there are several other ways GenAI can be used in art that interfere minimally with human connection. For example, it can be used to replace tedious work. I am all for GenAI doing my UVing for my 3D meshes. Use it as an actual tool to automate drudgery. As the meme goes, I want AI to do my laundry and dishes so I can do art and writing, not for AI to do my art and writing so that I can do my laundry and dishes. Another example is using it for tasks that are too large in scope to be done by humans, like adding subtitles in 15 different languages to every video on YouTube. There is certainly an art to good translations, but a project of that scope is absolutely impossible to do with traditional human work. So while it's not as good as being done by a person, that task as a whole can only exist through a process of automation. So 2 more points on generative AI and connection. Originality is also a major factor in authenticity, and while in some cases the results of GenAI can be super original looking, in many cases, at least with the current datasets, it will spit out results that are nearly identical to existing work. Artist Reed Southern did some work on this. Type the prompt video game hedgehog and here's what you get. Now you're likely to see this and say, oh, this is Sonic. I don't want this, I was looking for something original. But what if you've never seen Sonic the Hedgehog, and so don't realize that the results you got from the software is derivative? While using more complex prompts can increase the chance of something unique, letting the algorithm control the originality is a potential minefield of not just legal action, but also boring generic same-as results. And finally, I promise I get back to this. So another important part of authenticity is trust and fairness, and that brings us to the copyright issue. As you probably know, most current available AI models are based on work under copyright where the original artist never gave their permission to have their work used in this manner and have not been compensated for their contribution. It's a little like finding out your favorite clothing designer has manufactured their clothing in sweatshops overseas. Those issues led to a whole movement 20 to 30 years ago to only buy goods from brands that guarantee their artisans are fairly compensated for their labor. You may know the term ethically sourced. Nothing breaks trust faster than admitting you exploited people to make your art, and a lack of trust is a surefire way to weaken, if not completely eliminate, authenticity. Now, technology changes, societal norms shift, so I'm always open to revise my opinions based on new evidence. But one thing I just can't imagine changing my mind on is the pursuit of genuine human connection. And any process that interferes in a substantial way with that connection is something I want to avoid. So going forward, as an artist, every choice you make contributes to the authenticity of your art. It contributes to genuine connection. Future generations are going to want authenticity, and anything that's not authentic in their eyes is just going to be ignored. In short, the audience wants to feel they see your soul in the work. So give it to them. You need to ask yourself, why should my audience care to look at an image that I didn't bother to make? If GenAI is going to be part of the future of art making, then cleaning up the datasets to only include opt-in, copyright-free work will be the first step at retaining some authenticity. But even if we're able to achieve this, remember when making your art, that the more you directly contribute to that final result, the more likely that it'll mean something to somebody. So as an artist, stay at the highest spot of that gradient that you can. The world doesn't need more disposable imagery that lacks deeper meaning or connection. So let's use technology to connect people to people, not people to machines, and offer authenticity. It's the only path to real happiness for artist and audience alike. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you found this interesting. And if you want more videos and tutorials and lessons, please go to neilblevins.com and go to the education section. Or if you want to be notified the next time I post a new video, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thank you very much.